Alright, today we're having a look at the Freezer Room by Juliet YCD. Alright, so here we are in the Freezer Room by Juliet YCD, and having a little bit of server issues. Hopefully that's not gonna complicate anything in the actual level itself. Point the Gravitron at the blue glowy-like thing and press L1. Sounds like a plan to me. I'm excited. L1 is that's... Whoa, hey! Okay, not what I was expecting. I thought that, I don't know why, I thought that was gonna do a completely different thing. But I kind of love it. That's snazzy, and I like it. Already, I'm feeling very snazzy. Push and pull, try it. That's kind of what I that was okay, I didn't think it was gonna get pulled quite the way that it did, but that was sure. But that was more of the effect that I was thinking that was gonna happen. not actually pushing and pulling myself. This is cool. Environment's got a very nice look to it, which is something that I always appreciate. Looks like we've got a pretty integrated power-up that is perhaps a little bit maybe tough to wrap the brain meats around, but still, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, that zoops me towards it, and that... R1... Okay, R1 zoops me toward, and L1 zoops me away. So, I think what I'm supposed to be doing is... Well, maybe can I just, like, get zooped? No. No, I can't. Okay, this is... This is a tricky use, and it's hard to call because... That's not what I wanted. Juliet has given us some opportunity to use the power-up already, so having a more difficult... having a more difficult challenge with the power-up is not uncalled for at this point, but I do feel like it's a little bit of a jump in expectation. What if I... Okay, no. That's really, like, I feel like we've got to be parallel to the ceiling and then blast off from that point with the L1. Yeah, and definitely I think if you've got a hazard that's got this much trouble, putting the checkpoint here would have been the better idea. Why, how am I screwing this up as badly as I am? I apologize, Juliet. Oh, fudge! Well, that's our 3 minutes. We're gonna have to go back to the hub, and we will see you there. See ya! And we're back! And the Freezer Room by Juliet YCD, and I'd say it's definitely an orange diamond. There are things about the level that I really liked and appreciated, and I thought were very, very positive, but there is one particular glaring issue that you could probably guess what it's going to be, that I do think really drags down a lot of the enjoyment of the level. Now, to focus on the positive stuff, and right off the jump, the environment. I thought the environment was really, really well handled. It's well shaped, it's well proportioned, the materials and decorative elements all fit into that kind of meat freezer deal that we've got going on, and I thought that was just well handled all around. Juliet, you did a great job on that part of it. The parts of the environment that mix in with gameplay, the red and blue blocks, they as well do feel like they fit environmentally. They go with both the theme, but they seem like they ought to be where they are. The blue, because there is so much blue in the environment, it can be a little bit easy to miss, or it would have been easy to miss, I think, if the level was more quickly paced, but because the level's got a relatively moderate pace to it, the blue stands out enough that you're going to be able to see it and you'll know where you need to be interacting with things when you get there. So that part's all great. The power-up as well, I thought the power-up was pretty cool. I like the fact that it was dual use, both, you know, pulling and pushing off of objects or manipulating objects, and that both of those uses do see play in the level. The power-up is really quite well integrated in the level, and that's something that I always appreciate. A lot of times we see power-ups in levels and they're just kind of like, they're tossed in and they maybe do like one or two things, but they're not really necessary beyond this particular obstacle, and that's not what we see here. We see a power-up that definitely goes with this level, and that's great. I definitely want to give a big thumbs up for that. But moving on to the more negative side of things, and the gameplay, and really one aspect of the gameplay. For the most part, there's not really a lot that's super challenging in there. As I said, you do get a lot of use out of the power-up, but it's not a lot of things that feel like they're gonna kill you unfairly, except for that bit that we saw in the video, that obstacle. And I do think that this obstacle was particularly poorly designed and implemented. So what we're looking at here is we've got a relatively large gap. There's an anchor point in the center of the gap that we're supposed to pull ourselves up to a platform that is a little bit higher than where we're starting. Now we see, as an example of scaffolding, we do see a similar obstacle earlier on in the level, but the difference here now is that the anchor point in that first obstacle is quite close to where you're going, so the momentum of your being pulled by the gravity there, it's pretty easy to get you onto that other ledge and move on with your life. Here, it's completely different because it's so very, very fiddly. Now, technically, there is a sweet point where if you've got the angle just right, and you know, you hold the button just long enough, and you're moving at just the right momentum, you will nail that jump. But it's very, very lucky, and I found it very, very difficult to replicate. So you end up having to return to that obstacle over and over and over again. And because the checkpoint is not super far away, but it's far enough away that you have to do that trip a number of times, and it starts to wear down the momentum of the level really quickly. And I feel like the level really came to a dead stop at that point. The first thing I would definitely do there is I would move that checkpoint right up before that particular obstacle. Now, I do think that maybe making that gap a little bit shorter so that there's just a little bit more wiggle room. We don't have to make it super easy because there has been some practice with this particular type of traversal, but a little bit easier than what we've got. This very precise type of obstacle, I feel like would be more of an end level obstacle, because really we don't see anything else in the level that is nearly as difficult as this. So you kind of go into it and you think, wow, this is really, really hard. The rest of the level's probably going to be just as difficult, and it's like it's not, so that kind of screws up with your expectations of momentum as well. Another issue with this, and I know I'm harping on it, but this really is the problem point of the level, is that directly after this, prior to being able to get to a checkpoint, you have another obstacle that can kill you very, very easily if you're not paying attention to just what's happening. You're pulling a velociraptor down onto your head. It's going to throw you up in momentum towards something that you're going to need to grab so you don't get thrown onto spikes. And now that is a couple of layers in the background to the left of where you land from this other obstacle that you've already put all of your focus on. So it's kind of easy to just jump into this next obstacle without actually looking at the big picture, get yourself killed, and have to do that momentum obstacle all over again. So we really need to be thinking in levels of how are we scaffolding the type of obstacles that we have. We want the players to have a lot of practice if they're going to be getting into a type of obstacle that's going to be requiring precise timing, precise placement, and has a high probability of killing the player. We want the player to be really prepared for that type of obstacle. So here, either having a couple of more obstacles between the first practice, which is relatively easy, and this, so that the players can build up their skill, or shifting this farther into the level, so that, again, that the players got more chance to play around with that power-up, get an idea for how the momentum works, get an idea for how long you need to be holding onto the button to be able to deal with what's going to be coming up later on. I do think, absent that one point, this is a really cool level. I think it's an excellent example of how to work power-ups into levels, how to make relatively simple but still relatively interesting power-ups for levels. It's a difficult skill. There's some folks like Hirunda who do very complex, very, very super cool, very interesting power-ups. And then there's just like a lot of garbage power-ups. We don't see a lot of middle tier that I think that average creators could do if they had kind of the inspiration to do so. So this is a pretty cool level just for that aspect of it. Juliet, I really appreciate the work that you did here. I did enjoy the level beyond this one point, and I look forward to playing more of your levels again in the future. But that pretty much does it for us here this go about. So, from me... Oh, one small thing. I noticed because of like server issues, sometimes when I show the introduction, the title page of the level, it doesn't always bring up the creator's moon. And that's a bit of a shame because Juliet, for example, has got a really, really cool moon. So I want to give a couple of seconds here just to show that, because we didn't get to see it in the actual title page reading when we played. So this is Juliet's moon. It's really cool. It's really neat. I always love seeing creators put their own stamp. Oh, not moon, Earth. Excuse me. This is Juliet's Earth. And I always love seeing creators put their own stamp on their place. But now that pretty much does it for us here this go about. So from me, Isko, here in Tokyo, to all of you out there wherever may happen to be, thank you, arigato, arigato, sayonara, see you, and ciao.